morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. Thanks for joining the channel. It's always a pleasure to get together. Thanks for everyone that's supporting the channel and really supplying an excellent range of really very sophisticated questions. We really appreciate that. It really helps the channel. A couple of quick little housekeeping things. This show is being recorded on Saturday, July 10th. Probably posted to the channel on Sunday, July 11th. Also on Sunday, July 11th, I'll be doing the next Dead Famous show with Andrea from Lilac Lantern Tarot and Linda, Comanche Psychic. I'll be doing that show, recording it Sunday, July 11th, and then posting to my channel. So everybody can look for that. In addition, a couple quick housekeeping things. Please remember to like and subscribe and share videos from this channel. It really helps the YouTube algorithms. Remember to hit the notification bell so you know when new videos are uploaded. And in addition, anyone that needs to reach me to book a session, it's very easy to do. Just sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Look for the book online tab, and my office team always keeps the calendar completely up to date. So for today's show, what I thought we would do, start off with two kind of high-level psychic questions that I get all the time, and then kind of move into what will now be a top 37 countdown of frequently asked questions. We're getting more and more every week, and we're trying to get through them and try to address as many questions and many people as we can. So here we go. Let's jump into the show. One of the questions that I get all the time, and I'll paraphrase here, is Sterling, it seems you have a sense of time frame when answering questions where most other readers say it's difficult to determine a time. Is this information specific to you and your gifts, connections to spirit? Can you describe how you receive messages? So let me say up front that timing is always a little bit of a difficult challenge for any psychic medium. Now remember that all information flows from the Akashic records, which is actually everything that is past, present, and future. Now, in the case of my team, who I communicate with, I communicate with a very broad range of angels and guides on the other side. These include even scientists and ETs and archangels and famous people from history. So kind of a very large team. So whenever I go in and ask a question, this information comes from a very large, almost a council of diverse disciplines. So that's always helpful in kind of understanding information that comes through. Now, when I receive information, I receive it both in terms of a voice, so they're talking with me, also in terms of what I call a cinematic movie, so I can see both. So in the case of time frame, if somebody said, for example, is something coming up, or maybe I'll get something out of the blue, like I know a year ago I received information on a strong earthquake coming to California in the middle of the year, June of this year. What they would do is they would tell that to me and then actually show me a time frame and show me a location. In that case, it was Central California. Now, we did just see an earthquake occur about a magnitude 6.0 at the California-Nevada border, Central California, on July 8th. But that's an example of how I receive the information early on, 6 to 12 months in advance. So timing can be an issue, but it's a combination, a blend of the psychic and the team they're talking with and the ways they communicate. So hopefully that's helpful. But that's kind of how it all takes place. Now, some people ask, about mediumship. Now, everybody has hundreds of people on the other side as part of their extended spiritual family, and their family. So you meet those people when you pass over. For me, the way my gift works is that I usually can call anybody through by name. And really nobody ever refuses. Call a family member through by first and last name, and they'll usually step right forward, and that provides clarity for both me and that individual, and we know exactly who we're talking with. Everybody on the other side is certainly willing to step forward and talk. I know sometimes they'll say people that pass over have difficulty communicating. I don't normally see that. Normally, people have a fairly easy transition as they move across. Obviously, there's a life review, but once they're across, they're usually fairly easy to communicate, and most people are more than willing to do it. Certainly, if they're a related family member or even a famous person from history, always happy to get involved. It's also worth mentioning that psychic mediumship work does take a lot of focus and energy. So whether you're doing psychic, clairvoyant, clairaudient work or mediumship, there is a focused energy to it, and it is draining, So, anybody that's doing this kind of work, it's always best to try to do it on, a good night's sleep and be well rested so you can maintain focus. It's also important to understand how to turn the gift on and off. You don't want to leave it on all the time. That's also very tiring. And you also just want to make sure that you certainly, carve out enough time during a day. You do it during a time that you are well rested and focused. You certainly don't want to do it, 24/7. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight as to kind of timing and psychic mediumship work and kind of how it all comes together. Happy to do some shows down the road here to provide more detail, but I do get asked this question all the time, so I thought I'd provide a little bit of insight as to kind of how I work with my group and my council and the archangels and the guides and the famous people from history and the scientists, how it all kind of comes together. Now, one other question I get all the time is, they say to manifest something, you need to be a vibrational match. How do you know if you are? And somebody said here, I've been working on manifesting using several methods. It hasn't worked. Well, it's for everybody. It's your angels and guides that work with you from the other side to manifest whatever you're trying to create. So from a baseline, I always say there are 3 C's associated with manifesting. You have to be clear, and you have to be concise, and you have to be consistent. And it's that focus and that's repetitiveness that allows your team on the other side, your angels and guides, to know exactly what you're trying to manifest and create. And they actually do help physically. They help by putting the right people in your path, the right people to call you out of the blue, angel thoughts in people's heads to call you. But the opposite is also true for a lot of people. If you're not clear and concise and consistent, and focused, then it is confusing for your team on the other side. They don't know how to help you. So, there are good techniques. Some people like vision boards. I think I see a lot of people, actually thousands of people in the industries that I work in, use personal checks, writing a very detailed personal check to yourself with a life purpose and a give back to the universe and a specific date and a dollar amount, and all those things coming together in a very realistic plan. It can be a big ask. Don't get me wrong, it can be a big ask, but it's got to be an ask that you're serious about and you're going to focus on. So hopefully, some of these techniques will be helpful to you. Everybody can learn to manifest, just like learning any sport or being a musician. It takes focus, it takes time, it takes attention. Everybody has a skill, but there are certain, definable elements you need in order to kind of execute that plan. Okay, so now let's get into the top 37 list and countdown of frequently asked questions. So thanks again for everybody that submitted questions. Remember, this is for entertainment purposes only, and happy to provide all the information. All this information comes forth from my team, my council, my angels and guides. So happy to share the information. So let's get into the list. So question number 37 in the countdown. As a light worker, I value many people, ideas, and principles over material goods. Is it okay to want to have money, sexy shoes, purses, and jewelry? Absolutely. Joy in life is part of the process. You certainly want to always maintain focus on why you're here, what your life purpose is, how you're here to help. But, rewards and joy and kind of living in abundance, those are all things that are just fine. Obviously, it's a problem if you focus on that all the time. But if that gives you joy in life, that is certainly part of the process. It's certainly fine to indulge in those areas. Number 36 in the countdown. Are there perhaps obvious reasons why we have a ring of forgetfulness placed over us before birth? Yes, I think what this person is referencing is that if you've had a number of past lives, you don't remember the past lives at birth. You'll always bring up the lessons and the experiences that you need in this life if they're related to past lives. So that ring of forgetfulness is more of an added benefit to experiencing the new life experience, but you certainly are able to leverage off of past life experience. So the ring of forgetfulness, I think people are talking about, really allows you to have kind of a fresh start and build on where you left off, so to speak. Number 35 in the countdown. Why are there so many angry ghosts? Why don't people stay on the other side? Well, people do stay on the other side and ghosts stay on the other side. There's a lot of prankster spirits out there, just like there are people that like to play pranks here in life. And so I really don't come across angry ghosts per se. There are a lot of prankster spirits, and they do stay on the other side. So, really, there's really, again, nothing evil here. People ask all the time, is there a devil? No, there's not a devil. And there isn't a demonic figure that's going to get attached to people. But there aren't a lot of angry ghosts or a lot of prankster ghosts, and they do come around if you enjoy their company. Number 34 on the top countdown. 45 just filed lawsuits against Facebook, Twitter, and Google for banning him. Will they go anywhere? No. And what's interesting is his lawsuits won't go anywhere. But what I do get and I do receive is that this is going to be part of an ongoing mission by the federal government to make sure there's some guardrails around social media platforms and news organizations, such that if content elicits violence, or we've got some other issues in our country that affect safety, they'll definitely have some guardrails built. So this will be an ongoing item the federal government will look at. But in terms of 45's lawsuits, they're going to fall flat on their face. Number 33 in the top 37 countdown. Do you see us in hover cars in the future? Will they get away from tires and roadways and be better for the environment? Yes, and we've talked about this on a few shows. I see the first incarnation of cars, I'll call it flying cars and flying mass transportation, will be adaptations of drone technology. So yeah, they'll be air-powered kind of adaptations of drone technology. I do see them as being solar-powered, electrified with battery technology, as that becomes much more efficient and more lightweight and more storage. So yes, hover cars will be an adaptation of drone technology. Over the next 5 years, you're going to see some pretty good implementations from several manufacturers. I believe Tesla will be one of them. General Motors will see adaptations of flying cars, and really within a decade, we will have this kind of mass transportation initially show up on the scene, and then we'll move more into commercial applications for people, individuals. Number 32, why do some people have a hard path in the first half of their life and have it easier during the second part of their life? Is there a spiritual lesson behind being a late bloomer? Well, it's been my experience in talking, with my team, that what happens is that many times early in life, you're actually learning lessons. And sometimes there's trauma associated with early life lessons, all types of trauma. Could be family-related trauma or violence or accidents, car accidents. But what you're meant to do is get through that trauma and then build on that and pay it forward to help others. So there's some sort of a rationale in the universe that you come in almost like in the early parts of school and college and learning in life, if you will. And then that may be reflected in kind of hard lessons, if you will, in life in the early years. And then you use that to leverage and to help others and pay it forward later on in life. Number 31, you often mention that in 5 years, our healthcare will improve with gene splicing advances. Does this mean the average lifespan will increase? It certainly does. And to be clear, what my team always tells me is that within about 5 years, gene splicing, gene editing technology will be very well understood, and we'll understand how to implement it. But of course, it's going to take another 5 years. It's probably a 10-year span for it to get commercially available, so the costs come down and various companies go through approval cycles. But yes, it will help certainly increase everybody's lifespan. Number 30 in the top 37 countdown. As your shifts from 3D to 4D, will it get harder during the life shift for every human? Will it be difficult, like a Great Depression or food shortages? No, because, kind of moving from 3D to 4D to 5D really means you're moving to higher levels of what I call dimensional consciousness. So it really is, there's a very personal thing that happens. It's more of an insightful look at the universe and people and a thinning of the veil to the other side. But it certainly doesn't mean there's massive famine and huge things going on the planet. So maybe a little bit of confusion there, and whoever asked that question, but it certainly is all about a higher level of dimensional consciousness. Number 29, will the feds be able to stop the Moors militia or other militias? They say they are sovereign nations. Yes, absolutely. The federal government will definitely not allow these militias to take hold of the government. So this will be combated by the federal government and armies and a number of military that we have in the U.S. government. Much the same we would fight a foreign foe, we will fight a localized foe, if you will, or these militias. The federal government will have control over it. Number 28 in the top 37 countdown. Please ask your guides if they have any specific advice about the personality disorders of narcissism and borderline personality disorders. So what I get on that, these are all manifestations of really medical problems. So these are real medical problems that where these people straddle multiple realities and not necessarily the reality that a lot of other people function within. So it's a medical disorder, and these individuals really encounter a much more severe life lesson path when they're down here on Earth. 27. Do the Pacific Islands, Hawaii and Guam, for example, have to be concerned with the rising sea levels covering the islands? Well, yes, over the next 3 decades, over the next 30 years, we are going to see, continuing rising ocean levels, and they will affect those areas of the world. So, planning for these types of events that we know now are just a few decades, several decades out. Planning should start occurring now in terms of how ocean fronts are handled and how building is handled and how water is handled. So yeah, we're going to see rising ocean levels that will be somewhat significant. 26. If we all possess psychic abilities when born, why do you choose not to use them or acknowledge them or cultivate them? So there's always a balance between the physical world and the spiritual world. And sometimes this takes getting used to when you're just born. Much the way you might have to get used to learning how to swim or other types of skills. So there's a balance, but the faster you adapt to psychic and mediumship skills, the faster you move through life, and as accelerates your life path. If you delay, for example, picking up psychic mediumship skills for all of us, or learning how to talk to your team, it can actually kind of de-accelerate your life path. You're still on your life path, but it does control the speed at which you move through your life path, the agility, if you will, how much difficulty, do you zigzag a lot? But anyway, we're all born with the ability. Most children use it up through about 5 or 6 years old, even though they don't understand. Parents will see children talking to imaginary friends. Most children put it down at 5 or 6 years old. You can pick it up at any time you want to, but I guess, the real answer here is that you have to kind of get used to that balance between the physical world and the spiritual world when you come into the world. And that's why probably people will kind of delay using that skill. 25. Did most of the people who died in the building collapse in Florida leave their bodies before being crushed? Yes. And this is very characteristic of very large mass catastrophes, 9/11 or major airline accidents. Many cases, the universe, your guides, your angels, your birth angels, they'll remove you from the difficulties of that departure long before your body gives up, so to speak, or before that disaster. In many cases, sometimes, for example, in airline disasters, spirits are moved well before the plane ever hits the ground. Also, in many cases, I see family members might be, let's say, in distress or in hospice and really going through some difficulties, but they may leave their bodies 2 or 3 days before their actual body gives up. Their spirit will actually leave. Their birth angels will come down to collect them. So yes, in the case of Florida, there was kind of a mass exit much before they felt any physical pain. And what's interesting, when you have mass disasters like that, you have all these individuals actually moving forward into heaven at the same time. So there's, interestingly enough, kind of a camaraderie, or there's a friendship as all these spirits move collectively to the other side. Number 24 in our countdown, what causes climate change? Is it an earthly cycle, or is it caused by pollution? So the earth does have a natural rhythm, absolutely. But much the same way that, if you have, let's say, high winds on earth, they can blow around and move storm fronts around. Pollution affects the environment. So the earth does have a natural rhythm, but pollution and the things that are causing some of the global warming we're seeing are affected by mankind, humankind, the things going on. So there's a combination of factors there, but as you know, we're going to move much more towards a green economy, and many things are going to get much better. But climate change is caused by natural rhythms of the earth, along with what humankind is doing. Is it true we can leave the planet too soon by being murdered or by suicide? I get this question all the time. Now, whenever a murder occurs or a suicide, it is certainly on their life path. At the end of life, all of us have a bit of free will, and it's been my experience, plus or minus kind of 2 years around end of life, as we get closer to an exit point as to when we actually exit. This is true for suicide victims, murder victims, people undergoing, very severe traumatic cancers or things that will take their life. But it's always on their life path. You don't really leave too soon, but there's a little bit of a free will buffer towards the end there. So hopefully that helps in creating a little bit better understanding around that. Number 22, is it okay to ask a psychic medium when someone with a terminal illness will pass? That kind of almost leverages off the last question. I always tell people that it's up to the man or woman upstairs as to when anybody actually leaves the planet. And I say that kind of in a humorous way, but I learned years ago, I've been doing this for a long time, that very difficult to sometimes see exactly when someone's going to leave the planet. And in some cases, I've been fooled because life does go on. So sometimes what I'm seeing when I'm talking to guides and angels, I'm seeing someone's life continue on. But in fact, there may be a transition somewhere in the next couple of years. A lot of times I do see, projecting out kind of when someone will pass. You can always ask a psychic or a medium, but I will tell you this: you'll always receive the information you're supposed to receive. So understand that the universe is always working through all of us, all psychic mediums, and you and your loved ones. So you always receive the information you want, you're intended to receive. It's always fine to ask the question, but I think the answer will always be dependent on several factors. So hopefully that makes sense. 21, what changes do you see for women in the next 20 years? I see much more independence, and I see much more of a natural ability to how women decide to move forward with families or create families. So this includes maybe a greater degree of adoption, and surrogate motherhood, things of that nature, and absolute pay equality. I do see within 20 years, absolute pay equality between the sexes. Number 20, what changes do you see for men in the next 20 years? A little similar, more independence, less of a requirement for, let's say, men in a family unit to be the income earner, the major income earner, much more of a balance between the sexes. And I do see longer lives for both men and women, really due to better healthcare. Okay, number 19 on our top 37 countdown. Does Atlantis still exist on the other side? Well, yes, a lot of the individuals, the spirits that were part of Atlantis, and I think even Lemuria, I think it was called, the two continents that were here some 60,000 years ago. The individuals and the spirits certainly still exist, and some have reincarnated. Interesting enough, those were really the two first continents in the world that were really, we had our ET friends kind of helping us develop the human race. Now that's not the only incarnation, but certainly both of those continents and Atlantis and Lemuria were around, and the spirits are still around, and some 60,000 years ago. Number 18, what does the future hold for Haiti? Will the situation get better? What I get on that is that, Haiti, I see 2 or 3 additional kind of government rebirths, if you will. So a rebirth. And what I mean by that is it looks like there'll be a kind of a new government coming in, but it's going to kind of topple and shift another 2 or 3 times over the next number of years before Haiti really sees some stability. So unfortunately, a little bit more of change and kind of a morphing of the government there. So it's going to create some instability, but within a few years, I do see it getting much more stable. Number 17, when your soul decides to return into a new body, is your personality the same or similar to what you had before? Yes, in many cases, when you reincarnate, some of your key personalities will still be there. So maybe you had a great sense of humor, or you had a real sense of curiosity for the world. A lot of those traits will still come through with you. If there's something you really wanted to learn, for example, that's quite different than prior lifetimes, and that's tied to a personality trait, you might shift that personality. But interesting, if I see people that were very humorous here, when I talk with them on the other side, they still have a great sense of humor. So yeah, personality traits do travel with you. They do. When does our spirit energy and our human form become one? And that's question number 16. This varies across many individuals, so it's not the same for all. What I do see is that, let's say during the birth process, what happens is that spirits do decide to come down, but they decide to come down at different times. And in fact, spirits may turn around if they feel like the timing is not right. So, for example, if they see that a pregnancy is going to lead to some event that won't allow them to continue on, could be a stillbirth or something of that nature. In any event, spirits will come down in different times, depending on when they feel it's safe to come down. They will also turn around if they feel like there's a reason not to come down at this time. So there's a variability there. Number 15 in our countdown, will there be a time when any and all images of the Confederate flag will be banned? Yes, I do see within the decade that a lot of, the earth shifts we're going through, say 3D to 4D to 5D, which people are referring to as a third density and fourth density and fifth density. It's really, remember, it's an awakening of consciousness, but much more goodwill will be spread throughout the world and certainly the US, and we'll see the Confederate flag move away and not become something that is so prominent, and those images will be taken away. Number 14, if there are multiple dimensions of parallel worlds, does this mean that a soul can exist in many places at one time? No, there are parallel worlds, there are parallel universes even, but your spirits exist in one at a time. Now, when you pass over on the other side, what can happen is, because of the way heaven works, the nonlinearity of time, time is very nonlinear. You can actually move between parallel universes and experience them, and there's really a very freedom of movement on the other side. But your spirit really is focused in one particular location at a time. So if you're down here on Earth, you're not experiencing another parallel universe. If you're on the other side, you can certainly look at other universes as a singular spirit, but then you're also not existing here down on Earth. So hopefully that helps. You don't exist in multiple locations at one time. 13, our countdown. My cat, my best friend, just recently passed away. I think about him every day. Can you please tell me what pets do in heaven on the other side? So, it's interesting. They do play. Pets are part of the angelic realm. Animals are part of the angelic realm. When they pass over, they actually rejoin our spiritual families. And they're just as vibrant as they were when they were here. They can actually see us when they pass. Many times, if you have other pets in the house, those pets will acknowledge, they can see the spirit of your pet that passed. If you don't have a pet in the house, you can still see signs of a pet that passed on. You may get a cold chill, or you may find feathers lying around in certain places. But anyway, they pass on, they play, they rejoin our spiritual families, even though they are still part of the angelic realm. Animals are uniquely very high vibrational energy, and that's why they come down here with unconditional love. Number 12, I'd love to know if Scotland will be independent from the UK soon. Well, I don't call soon, but I do see over the next 2 to 4 years that Scotland will have complete independence. So this is something that's been going on for a lot of years, even before the exit and the kind of the separation of the European Union. But I do see within 2 to 4 years here that we will see kind of complete independence for Scotland. Number 11 in our countdown. Will the Greenland ice sheet melt? And if it does, how long will it take? I don't see the Greenland ice sheet completely melting. If it were to completely melt, you're looking at something that takes thousands of years, maybe 10,000 years. Certainly parts of the ice sheet are melting, and they're causing ocean levels to rise. I do see with a lot of the green economy coming and the Paris Accord and things going on between world nations that we're going to get our hands on top of global warming, but don't see the Greenland ice sheet completely melting, and even if it did, it would take 10,000 years, and don't see that happening. Number 10 in our top 37 countdown. What can you tell us about the large mantis-type cosmic beings that are visiting Earth? It says, I know 2 people have seen them locally. They're just another form of ET. So they're another race of ETs. They are benevolent, nothing to worry about. They've been coming here for years or millions of years. So they're another form of ET. Number 9 in our countdown. If they come down here with a contract, and that contract says the person is to die in a car accident, then why do we pray for a miracle to save that person's life? So great question. Now, you have to understand that all of our life paths are interconnected. Prayer puts you in complete alignment with your guides and angels and their guides and angels. The purpose of prayer is to unite us kind of in love. Prayer will not necessarily change someone's blueprint of their life path, but certainly if it's not their exit point, that combined experience between, let's say, the person in the car accident and you praying and prayer circles, all those things unite us in a loving energy, and there's a purpose to that. So you don't necessarily change someone's life path, but you can certainly help accelerate them again on their life path if it's not their exit point. So these all translate to life lessons that we're all supposed to learn when we're here, and prayer is certainly a big part of that. And so praying for someone that's been in a car accident certainly has a great benefit to not only them, but the other people around you, and even you yourself. Number 8 in our countdown, you have mentioned gene splicing will cure many diseases. Will gene splicing create the perfect human being? Not necessarily. What gene splicing and gene editing will be used for primarily is curing mankind's diseases. So it won't necessarily be used for creating the perfect nose, so to speak. So anyway, it's not really going to be used for creating the perfect human being, but certainly allowing humankind to get on top of a lot of diseases that are very difficult. Number 7, people keep pushing for Biden to get a cognitive test, and a recent poll said a majority think the country is being run behind the scenes from somebody else other than Biden. Is this true? No validity to the statement. There's no valid nature of this statement. This has a lot to do with statements being put forward by people that are trying to kind of undermine the current government. And I think, we know who those groups are. Number 6, is it possible your guides can be multilingual? I sometimes hear messages in other languages. Absolutely. So guides and angels, they speak in a very universal language, and this can get translated by who's ever hearing the message. So it could get translated to English or Spanish or Japanese or French. Certainly, there's no limit to the types of languages you can hear as this universal language is being translated down to you. A lot of it will have some kind of a meaning. It might ring back to a prior life or a past life for you. Maybe you were Japanese in a prior life, and now you're French in this life, but you still understand Japanese. So there's certainly multiple languages, and that can certainly take place. Number 5, any idea when vaccines for younger children 4 to 12 will be ready? So my guides for a good year here, the simple and direct answer is by the end of this year, by the 4th quarter of this year, we'll see vaccines available for children, in the 4 to 12. Now, for a year, my guides have been saying that by the end of August of this year, we'd have 4 major vaccine manufacturers with solid vaccines producing vaccine levels of hundreds of millions of doses each. And so as those get rolled out, certainly as we get into like the 4th quarter of the year, that we'll have doses and vaccines available for smaller children. So the simple answer is by the end of this year, by the 4th quarter. Number 4 in our countdown, QAnon supporters are running for local education boards and offices, and they're trying to destroy traditional educational practices. Will they succeed? I do see a lot of QAnon individuals running for education boards. What I don't see is a large percentage of them winning. Looks to be a very low percentage, something around 5% of the candidates might get into school boards, but a very low percentage, so it should not be a big factor. Number 3, in our top 37 countdown, do alien souls evolve and change like ours? Yes. In fact, they start off their unique soul journey in many ways kind of like humans, and they evolve from lifetime to lifetime. Remember that many ETs or aliens actually can live hundreds of years. So their lifespans are much longer than ours, but they do start off soul journeys and they do move up in their energetic level from lifetime to lifetime. Number 2 in our top 37 countdown, do you see anything coming up next week? You know what? I do see more concern over condo stability, if you will, in Miami and potential collapses. And I do see more evacuations. So this is going to be an ongoing problem down in Miami related to some of the collapses we saw. I see more difficulty coming up. I also see 45's legal team distancing themselves from kind of these social media lawsuit because they realize it's going to be a rather difficult road to hoe and not have a lot of success. I also see Alan Weisselberg's team negotiating behind the scenes for a deal that's coming up very, very soon. And I also see some sort of an explosion coming up in the US. And it looks like also some sort of a military or helicopter accident, which is very unfortunate, but there's something coming up here that feels like there's an aircraft accident related to the military coming up this week. So, God bless to all of those. And that always difficult when I see those kinds of things. And the number 1 last question on our top 37 countdown, you have anything your guides want to share? Yes. Tell everyone you meet and know that you love them. And this helps move the energy forward. This will help move kind of an energy wave of love around the nation. So thanks for everyone joining us today. Wishing you a lot of goodwill, a lot of love. Remember to always like and share and continue to kind of support the channel. It's always very appreciated. Great series of questions. I'm going to leave it here, and we'll get ready to see everybody very soon in the future. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon.